The glow of the television flickered across the living room, bathing the walls in a dull, bluish light. Valerie was sprawled across the sectional sofa, one leg draped lazily over the armrest, eyes glued to the screen. Some reality show droned on, the sound of fake laughter and dramatic music filling the silence between us. I stood by the kitchen counter, staring at my phone, my heart pounding against my ribs like a drum. It was the hospital. The nurse's voice was calm but heavy, like someone carrying a burden too big to share. "Mr. Thompson, your mother has taken a turn for the worse. If you want to say goodbye, now's the time." The words knocked the air out of me. I gripped the phone tighter, staring at the floor tiles as if they could hold me together. We knew this day was coming. Mom had been battling lung disease for years, a slow war against a body that betrayed her. But knowing something and feeling it crash down on you are two very different things. I turned to Valerie, my voice trembling. "Val, we need to go." "Mom." She didn't even look up. "I'm not going," she said flatly, eyes still locked on the TV. For a second, I thought I had misheard her. "What?" "Val, she's dying. This is it." She sighed, finally pausing the show, but her expression was something I'd never seen before, cold, distant, like a stranger wearing her face. And she never liked me anyway. That was a lie. Mom had bent over backward for Valerie. Every birthday, every family gathering, trying to make her feel like part of the family. Even defended her when Luna made comments about how Val never contributed to holiday meals. Mom tried. "God," she tried. "Please, Val." I whispered, my voice breaking. "I need you there." She tilted her head, eyes sharp as glass. And then she said the words that sliced me open. "Your mom can die alone for all I care. I'm not visiting her." Silence. The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. 3 years together, living in a house my mom helped me buy, driving a car she co-signed for when Val's credit was wrecked. And this was her response. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay calm. Understood. No yelling, no pleading, just that one word. Then I grabbed my keys and walked out. The night air was bitter against my skin as I stepped outside, my breath fogged in the cold. But inside, my chest burned with something hotter than rage, clarity. Every memory of my mother, every sacrifice she made, every quiet moment of love and Val's voice, sharp and selfish, echoing in my skull. I slid into the car, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only solid thing left. The hospital was only 20 minutes away, but I didn't drive there. Not yet. Instead, I pulled out my phone and made another call. "Mr. Garrett, it's Daniel Thompson. I need to change my mother's will. Tonight." The attorney hesitated for half a second before answering. "It's Sunday night. I'll pay whatever it takes. Please." There was a pause, then, "Text me the hospital address. I'll be there within the hour." When I ended the call, my hands were shaking so hard I could barely put the car in gear. Somewhere deep down, I knew my life had just split in two, the life I had before Valerie said those words, and the life I was about to claim without her. I drove into the night, headlights cutting to the darkness like a blade, my heart pounding with grief, anger, and a strange, cold sense of resolve. The hospital loomed ahead like a giant skeleton in the night, its glass windows glowing under the fluorescent lights, a silent beacon of life and death. The automatic door slid open with a hiss as I walked in, the smell of antiseptic and stale coffee hitting me all at once. Everything felt too bright, too clean, too cold. I checked into the front desk, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Daniel Thompson, here to see my mother, Evelyn." The nurse gave me a sympathetic smile, the kind that feels rehearsed because they've had to use it 100 times before. "Room 406, ICU wing. Take the elevators to the 4th floor." Every step toward that elevator felt heavier than the last. My shoes squeaked against the polished tiles, echoing in the sterile hallway. When the elevator doors slid shut, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirrored walls. Pale, eyes sunken, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. When the doors opened again, the sounds hit me first. The steady beeping of heart monitors, the distant hum of machines breathing for people who couldn't anymore. The hallway smelled like latex gloves and hopelessness. Mom's room was at the very end. I pushed the door open slowly, like I was afraid to wake her, but she was already awake, sitting propped against the pillows, her face pale as parchment, lips cracked, eyes dull but still warm when they landed on me. "Danny," she whispered, her voice as soft as falling snow. That single word cracked something inside me. I went to her, dropped into the chair beside the bed, and took her frail hand in mine. Her skin was cool, paper-thin, veins like blue threads beneath the surface. "I'm here, Mom," I said, my throat closing around the words. "I'm right here." She smiled, barely, but it was there. "You made it." I wouldn't be anywhere else. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. The machines beeped, the oxygen hissed, and her fingers squeezed mine with what little strength she had left. Then her eyes searched mine, a shadow of concern passing over her face. "Where's Valerie?" she asked softly. The question hit like a sucker punch. I swallowed hard. She couldn't make it. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't say anything. She just nodded slowly like she already knew. Maybe she always knew. Before I could say more, there was a knock at the door. Mr. Garrett stepped in, briefcase in hand, wearing a dark suit that looked out of place in this room of dying people. His presence was sharp, professional, almost jarring against the soft of the machines. "Daniel," he said quietly, giving me a nod. Then to Mom, Mrs. Thompson. She looked at him, then back at me, confusion flickering in her tired eyes. "What's this?" I took a deep breath, my hand still clutching hers. "Mom, I need to make sure your wishes are clear. For me, for us." Her gaze lingered on me, reading the pain etched across my face. And then she understood. Her eyes glistened, and for a moment, I saw the strength that had carried her through everything. "You're sure?" she whispered. I nodded. "I'm sure." Garrett opened his case, laying out documents on a rolling table at the foot of the bed. The sound of paper shuffling felt too loud, like it didn't belong here. He spoke in low tones, explaining every clause, everything to me as separate property, no claims from any partner or future spouse. Complete discretion over all distributions. Mom's hand trembled as she signed, but her signature was steady enough to make it real. When she finished, she looked at me, eyes bright with tears. "Danny," she breathed, "promise me something." "Anything," I said, choking back the lump in my throat. "Don't let anyone take advantage of you. Not again." I squeezed her hand like I could pour every ounce of love I had into that touch. "I promise." She closed her eyes, the weight of the moment settling between us like a heavy blanket. Garrett packed up quietly and slipped out, leaving me alone with her. I sat there for hours, listening to the rhythm of her breathing, knowing every breath could be the last. Outside, the night deepened. Inside, time stood still. Tuesday morning came like a thief. The world outside was bright, but inside that hospital room, everything felt dim. I held Mom's hand as the monitor slowed, the steady beeping fading into a long, haunting tone that would replay in my head for weeks to come. She slipped away quietly, her fingers still wrapped around mine like she didn't want to let go. I didn't cry right then. I just sat there numb, staring at her still face, thinking about everything. Her sacrifices, her laughter, the way she always called me Danny even when I was 35. When the nurse came in, I couldn't move. I let her take Mom away while I stayed in the chair, gripping the empty sheets like they could anchor me to something real. The funeral was 2 days later, a small service at the old church Mom loved. The sky was overcast, the kind of gray that presses down on you like a weight. People came, family, neighbors, old friends from her church group. I stood near the casket, shaking hands, hearing the same words over and over. She was such a wonderful woman. So sorry for your loss. Valerie showed up. She walked in late, wearing a tight black dress that looked more like clubwear than funeral attire, her heels clicking against the wooden floor. She slid into a pew, barely glancing at the casket, her phone glowing in her hand like it was the only thing that mattered. When my aunt whispered something about it, Val shrugged and said, "Well, it's not like she can see me anyway." Luna, my sister, nearly lost it right there. I had to put my hand on her arm to keep her from starting a scene. The service ended, and I drove home in silence, the weight of the day pressing down on me like lead. By that evening, everything started to change. Val came into the kitchen while I was rinsing out a coffee mug. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, her tone soft, too soft. "We should take a vacation soon," she said casually. "Clear our heads, you know? Maybe somewhere nice. The Bahamas?" I stared at her. "A vacation?" She smiled, the kind of smile she used to flash when she wanted something expensive. "Well, with everything that happened, and now with, the reading coming up, it might be good to plan ahead." I kept my face neutral. "The state attorney is handling everything. It could take months." Her brow furrowed, the mask slipping just a little. "Months? But I thought, don't you get something right away?" "Get what?" "You know from your mom." I wiped my hands on a towel, turned to face her. Mom had some life insurance from her old job, enough to cover the funeral. The way her smile faltered was almost comical. But the house? Her savings. What savings? Mom lived on Social Security. The house had a reverse mortgage. It didn't, but she didn't need to know that. She stared at me, blinking fast, like she was trying to process what this meant. "Your cousin made it sound like there was family money." I shrugged. "My cousin likes to gossip." She dropped it after that, out loud, anyway, but I could see it in her eyes. The wheels were turning, spinning so fast they might fly off. The next morning, she made me breakfast. The first time in 2 years. She stood there in my kitchen, smiling like a step-forward wife, batting her lashes. "Thought I'd take care of my man," she said sweetly, sliding a plate of eggs in front of me. For a second, I almost laughed. This woman who couldn't be bothered to unload the dishwasher was suddenly June Cleaver? Please. As I chewed my eggs, I thought about the documents sitting in Mr. Garrett's office. The ink on Mom's signature barely dry. Everything, every dime, every asset, explicitly, legally, irrevocably mine. And the woman across from me had no idea how completely she'd just ruined her future the moment she said my mother could die alone. 2 weeks passed. I thought maybe Valerie would give up the act and go back to normal, but I underestimated her persistence. Every day, she played the doting girlfriend, laundry, cooking well, ordering, suddenly acting like my grief was our grief. It was almost impressive how committed she was to the performance. Almost. But then came the day everything changed. I'd been at work late, trying to bury myself in spreadsheets to avoid thinking about Mom. When I got home, Valerie was waiting in the kitchen, her arms crossed so tightly her knuckles were white. Her face was pale, eyes blazing like she'd just uncovered conspiracy. "What the hell is this?" she snapped, shoving a piece of paper at me. I took it. It was a quarterly investment statement, one of Mom's accounts. $1.2 million balance, right there in black and white. My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice calm. "That's from Mom's estate. The attorney is handling it." Her laugh was sharp, bitter. "The attorney? You said she had no money. You lied to me." I said she lived on Social Security. I replied evenly, which she did. This is inheritance from her father. I'm still learning about all of it myself. Still learning about it? She jabbed a finger at the statement. "It says your name as the beneficiary, not OURS. Yours." "That's standard," I said, folding the paper and setting it on the counter. "I'm her son." Her voice rose, shrill enough to make the windows vibrate. 3 years, Daniel. 3 years I've been with you, and you're inheriting millions while I'm not even mentioned? I stared at her, my jaw tight. "Were you planning to be mentioned when you said my mother could die alone?" The words hit her like a slap. She froze for half a second before her face twisted into something ugly. I was upset. People say things when they're upset. "You were watching TV," I said coldly. "What exactly were you upset about?" Tears welled in her eyes. Fake. I knew that look. "I can't believe you're being so cruel after everything I've done for you." Everything she'd done? like living rent-free in my house, driving the car Mom helped me buy, eating the food I paid for. I bit my tongue. No point saying it. But that was just the beginning. The next day, Valerie started her smear campaign. Social media posts about how money changes people. Cryptic quotes about betrayal. Little digs like, "Some people will use your love until they don't need you anymore." Then came the call from her mother, Denise, a voice like nails on a chalkboard. "Daniel, Valerie tells me you've inherited quite a bit from your mother." "I'm not discussing my finances with you," I said flatly. "She's been your partner for 3 years. She deserves something. She deserves exactly what she put into this relationship, nothing. How can you be so heartless?" Denise snapped, "Ask your daughter about being heartless. She's the expert." And I hung up, but Valerie wasn't done. Oh no. A week later, an envelope arrived. A letter from some bottom-feeder lawyer demanding a consultation regarding equitable distribution of inherited assets. I forwarded it straight to Mr. Garrett. He actually laughed. "She has no claim. You're not married. There's no common law in this state, and will explicitly excludes her. This is what we call a fishing expedition." He drafted a response that was pure art. Basically, Miss Romano has no legal standing. Any further harassment will be met with legal action. When Valerie read that, she went ballistic. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of drawers slamming. She was packing. "I'm going to stay with my sister until you come to your senses," she spat. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Okay, leave the house key." She froze, eyes wide. "You're really going to let me leave?" "I'm not stopping you." Her voice shook with rage. "After 3 years, this is how it ends?" "It ended the moment you said my mother could die alone. This is just cleanup." She hurled the key at me. It bounced off the wall and clattered to the floor. "You'll regret this when you're alone in your big house with all that money and no one to share it with." "I'd rather be alone with money than together with someone who only wants me for it." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard one of Mom's paintings fell off the wall. I picked it up gently, rehung it, and stood there for a long time, listening to the silence. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Getting Valerie's stuff out was an ordeal. She didn't just show up. She arrived like she was leading a raid, with her sister, her mom, and 2 cousins in tow. They came marching up my driveway with boxes and trash bags, faces twisted with entitlement, like they were about to loot the place. I wasn't stupid. I had backup too. Luna and her husband were there, standing in the living room like bouncers at a nightclub. I wasn't about to leave these people alone in my house. Val strutted in first, eyes scanning the place like a vulture looking for fresh meat. She started pointing at things that weren't hers. "That blender, I bought that." I folded my arms. "Receipt." She glared at me, but said nothing. 5 minutes later, she was trying to take my gaming console, then some of Mom's jewelry she'd borrowed for a wedding last year. Every time, the answer was the same. "Receipt." The only thing she left with were her clothes, her makeup, and the flat screen I bought her for Christmas. I let her have it, considered it the price of getting her out of my life. When the door finally closed behind her, it felt like someone opened a window in a room I'd been suffocating in for years. But the peace didn't last long. 2 weeks later, Garrett called me, chuckling like he'd just watched a comedy special. "You'll never believe this," he said. I believed it. Valerie's lawyer tried again, filed some nonsense about palimony and an implied financial partnership, claimed that by living together, we formed an agreement where she maintained the home while I supported us financially. "Small problem," Garrett said. "You hired cleaning services twice a month." And she bragged about not working full-time on social media. I've got screenshots. We subpoenaed her financial records. Do you know what her total contribution to household expenses was in 3 years? $1,200. My contribution? Over $87,000. Rent, car payments, insurance, groceries. Hell, even her phone bill. Garrett sent her lawyer the numbers, and the case collapsed like a house of cards. But karma wasn't done yet. Turns out Valerie had moved on. Fast. She was dating some guy named Brandon. Met him at a bar 3 weeks after she stormed out. Apparently, she told him she was about to get a massive settlement from her abusive ex who stole her inheritance. She ran up his credit cards, promising she'd pay him back when the money came in. Brandon called me, found my number in her phone. His voice was tight, embarrassed. "Man, is it true you owe Valerie money?" I laughed. "No, Brandon, there is no settlement. There never was. She was my girlfriend when my mom died. She thought she'd get money. She didn't. End of story." Silence. Then a long sigh. She's been charging everything to my card. "Let me guess. She said she'd pay you back when the settlement cleared?" "Yeah," he muttered. "How did you?" "Because that's what she does. Good luck, Brandon." He hung up. An hour later, Valerie called me, screaming like a banshee. Left a voicemail that could peel paint off a wall. Said I ruined her life. Said Brandon dumped her and left her with a restaurant bill she couldn't pay. I saved the voicemail. Garrett told me to keep a file just in case. After that, silence. As for me, I sold Mom's house. Too many memories. Bought a smaller place closer to work. Something quiet. Something mine. Set up college funds for Luna's kids. Donated a big chunk to the hospice that cared for Mom in her last days. And yeah, I started dating again. Her name's Grace. A teacher. Own job, own car, own life. When I told her about the inheritance, she shrugged and said, "That's nice. So where do you want to go for lunch?" No greed. No calculations. Just normal. Val, last I heard, she's back living with her mom, working part-time at a mall kiosk, posting cryptic quotes about karma on Facebook, telling anyone who'll listen how I ruined her life. But I didn't ruin her life. She did that herself the moment she showed me who she really was. The money didn't change anything. It just made the truth impossible to ignore. Mom will be proud. Not of the money. She never cared about that. But proud that I finally stood up for myself. Proud that I finally saw what she saw all along. Sometimes people tell you exactly who they are. When they do, believe them. The end.